3 spine-chilling true stories of cursed summer nights, unearthed horrors you must discover now. The night was a suffocating blanket of heat, clinging to every surface, each breath full of the oppressive humidity that even the local fans couldn't stir. Sarah, 28, sat alone in her modest home, her husband lost in the shuddering shadows of the local chemical plant, notorious for its safety record that had been the subject of whispered warnings and fearful glances for years. She was folding laundry, trying to find comfort in the mundane, when the first series of knocks echoed through her small house. It was the kind of knock that made her heart race, the uninvited kind, urgent and unnerving. Folding a sock, she looked towards the door, panic stabbing at her. She could almost hear the electric static of the old stories, the cursed summer, they called it, legends of fear and disappearance that curled around the town like the humid air outside. Footsteps would crunch on gravel, and neighbors would whisper behind closed doors, shifting their eyes toward Sarah as if she were some vessel of misfortune. The darkness outside swallowed her neighborhood, transforming the familiar into something grotesque and perverse. Each car that passed sent shadowy forms flitting past her window, and she felt herself hesitate before reaching for her phone. It rang, and rang again, but only silence answered, her calls to her husband swallowed by a gaping void that clawed at her insides. No. He was fine. She forced herself to believe it. But disbelief tightened its grip on her heart as she stepped outside. The porch light flickered, its glow barely cutting through the thick blackness. She almost turned back when Mrs. Hargrove emerged, her frail frame hunched like the tales she could tell. "It's happening again, dear," she trembled, her eyes wide with fear. "The land remembers the buried, they awaken." Sarah's stomach dropped. Burials? The stories of the mining disaster she had heard echoed in her mind like a haunting refrain. Curious yet terrified, she listened to Mrs. Hargrove, who spoke of restless spirits rising with the heat of July, claiming the innocent as if each word was a chisel, carving fear into her soul. She turned towards the friendly neighbors she had always waved to, now lurking like phantoms in the darkness. Their smiles turned predatory with every glance, leaving Sarah feeling exposed, vulnerable. What were they hiding? What did they really know? What really happens during the cursed summer? Can anyone be trusted? She thought, panic bubbling in her throat. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With an urgency ripping through her veins, she claimed her courage and strode back into her house, fumbling for her husband's number on the screen again. The line crackled ominously, dead darkness swallowing it again, leaving her broken whisper echoing back. A rustling sound outside froze her blood. Were they footsteps? Panic clutched her heart as she bolted to the window, every fiber of her being screaming at her to look. Was it her neighbor? Or something beyond the nightmare she couldn't yet comprehend? The flickering light caught the figure darting away just out of view, melting into the shadows. That chilling question lingered, was it danger or something dreadful from their past rising, and would the darkness consume her, too? The pounding in Sarah's chest echoed in her ears. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the window, peering into the suffocating darkness beyond, her breath quickening as she tried to discern reality from the fear clouding her mind. Who was out there, just beyond the reach of light? What did they want? The flickering light on the porch buzzed, casting odd shapes through the curtains, and she turned, instinctually searching for any sign of familiarity in her home. The ticking clock on the wall sounded hollow, mocking her with each second that passed without her husband's comforting presence. Suddenly, the rattling of a gate broke the stillness, causing the hairs on her arms to stand on end. It wasn't just the sporadic rustling anymore, it was the distinct sound of movement, heavy footsteps crunching the gravel path leading towards her door. The darkness swallowed the familiar sounds of the neighborhood, and in its place was a suffocating silence, broken only by her own shaky breaths. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice meek and trembling, each syllable seeming to vanish into the void. No response came, only the haunting sounds of her own heart thrumming against her ribs. Just then, a sharp knock echoed through the house even louder than before, as if the figure had lunged forward, demanding entry. The door rattled in its frame. Sarah stumbled backward, her mind racing. She eyed the front door through the dim glow of the porch light. Should she open it? Should she call for help? In that split second, shadows across the yard twisted, distorting into grotesque shapes that seemed to beckon her forward. Whispers clawed at the edges of her consciousness, unintelligible but suffused with urgency. The buried, are they coming for her? Doubts twisted like barbed wire in her stomach. Racing to the kitchen, she snatched up a knife and held it loosely at her side, feeling ridiculous yet resolute. Even this flimsy protection felt better than standing helpless. Each creak of the floorboards beneath her felt like a countdown, and she could almost hear the clock ticking away the seconds until the inevitable, the knock came again, louder, more insistent. "Sarah, it's me. Open up." The voice was familiar but distant, like a whisper from another world. Her husband. Relief surged through her, battling the hesitance that still clutched at her tightly. "Mark?" she called, her throat dry from both the heat and the fear constricting it. A flicker of hope tempted her as she scrambled to the door, yet another shadow darted past her vision, freezing her in place. She hesitated, torn between the safety of the locked door and the reality that danger might just be inside. "Please, Sarah, I need you to let me in." His voice, though strained, had a frantic edge to it. It echoed with desperation, spurring her instincts. With shaking hands, she turned the doorknob and pulled the door ajar. Suddenly, frigid air rushed past her, smelling of damp earth and something metallic that pierced her senses. She felt an icy presence behind her, a weight thickening the air, wrapping around her like chains, horrifying yet compelling. As she peeked outside into the night, Mark's face was pale, eyes wide with something she couldn't place. Was it fear? Recognition? Before she could step back, a murmur from the dark outside slithered into her ear, chilling her blood. "You shouldn't have opened the door." Sarah's eyes darted back to Mark, his gaze turning from her to the enveloping shadows. The air thickened as she felt an ancient curse pull at the edges of her mind, and dread shrouded her heart. The world outside had transformed, twisting into a nightmare beyond comprehension. As cold fingers clutched at her, she realized not just her husband, but the very land they stood on, was entwined in the horrors of that cursed summer. What emerged now would test her sanity. Was the source of evil truly her husband, or something far worse looming in the darkness? The door creaked open wider, and in that moment, as shadows seeped into her home, Sarah faced the shadows of the past. Unbidden and unrelenting, was this just the beginning? The door swung wider, and Sarah could sense an otherworldly chill seeping into the room, making the air crackle with tension. Mark stood before her, but something wasn't right. His eyes darted back to the darkness, fixated on unseen horrors, as if a malevolent force pulled at him, begging him to retreat back into the void. "Mark, please. What's happening?" She breathed the words out, each syllable dripping with fear. He opened his mouth as though to say something, but what emerged was a mere rasp, like gravel scraping against stone. "Not safe there here," Mark warned, a sliver of panic creeping into his voice. His face, usually a comforting sight, was now twisted with dread. For a heartbeat, it felt like the world froze around her. Neither the unbearable darkness nor the flickering porch light seemed to disturb the oppressive air. Suddenly, shadows coiled around Mark's feet, rising like smoke. She squinted, trying to see. It was as if the ground itself had come alive, creeping and swirling, yearning to claim him. "No! Get away from him!" she screamed, lunging forward. A guttural growl echoed from the night, vibrating through her bones. She backpedaled, clutching the knife tighter, feeling its cool metal against her palm. It was insufficient, terror bled through her veins and twisted her thoughts. The darkness felt sentient, hungry. "Sarah, don't!" Mark shouted, his face twisted in desperation. Panic surged within her as she glimpsed the evil lurking in the shadows he was so afraid of. Dark shapes shifted just beyond the reach of light, their forms blurring into grotesque, undulating figures. "Please, close the door." Mark's voice rose, but something deep within her forced her to remain still, frozen between instinct and disbelief. Before she could react, an unnatural wind surged through the doorway, slamming it shut with a crash. The glass rattled in its frame. She felt a pang of dread surge through her heart. Was this a protective gesture or a trap? "Sarah, they want you." Mark fell to one knee, hands gripping his temples as though battling an unseen affliction. She stepped back, a knot twisting dangerously in her stomach. What were they? Were they after him, or her? In that moment, something powerful and dark screamed from the shadows, a cacophony of voices merging into a single, bone-chilling wail. "Join us, be one of us." The knife slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor like a crack splitting through glass. A sense of betrayal punched her. Was this her husband, or was he merely a vessel for whatever malevolent force lurked beyond? How could the very person she had loved all this time now seem so foreign, so tainted? "Mark?" She choked, fear clawing at her throat. She took a step closer, torn between love and horror. "Get away. Don't listen." His face twisted in agony. The shadows writhed closer, tendrils of darkness curling around her feet as if trying to pull her towards them. "Are you fighting it? Are you really in there?" The questions emerged, desperate and raw. A flicker of something hopeful ignited inside her, a bond, a promise. But she could hardly cling to it with the anguish swirling around them. The shrieks of despair surged again. Mark trembled, teeth gritted against something unseen. "They're trying to take me, Sarah." In that instant, her mind flashed with images of their home, all the memories they had built, love entwined tightly against the fabric of darkness. How much would she sacrifice to pull him back from the abyss? Would their connection withstand the horror? The sound of the wailing grew louder, drawing closer, piercing through the air like daggers. Sarah's heart raced with a newfound intensity, teetering on the precipice of dread. "Mark!" She screamed, "Fight it! Fight them!" But the shadows whispered their secrets now, answering her pleas with a chilling prophecy. "You will not escape what you have awakened." As the shadows surged forward, the air thickened with despair, and Sarah realized the truth that entwined their fates. The darkness was more than just outside, it was within, waiting for the moment to strike. What happened next would determine everything. In that moment, she faced the decision that would either break or bind them both together in either salvation or doom. Could she save him, or would they both be consumed? Sarah felt an icy grip settle in her chest, squeezing tighter with every labored breath. The shadows around her pulsed like a living thing, an insatiable hunger radiating from their depths. Mark's desperation was palpable, his face twisted in torment, a stark contrast to the man she loved. "Fight it, Mark. Please." She pleaded, her voice cracking under the weight of despair. But her words seemed to dissolve into the thick, palpable gloom. Their surroundings warped, stretching and twisting as the shadows writhed, swirling in chaotic patterns. She had to do something. She couldn't just stand there and watch him fade away. The thought of losing him forever pierced her very soul. She rushed forward, instinct overpowering fear. "I won't let you take him." She screamed defiantly, eyes blazing with ferocity as she reached for him. Hope flickered in the darkness like a dying flame. Would it be enough? Mark's eyes darted to her, a brief moment of clarity breaking through the shadowy haze. "No, Sarah, go. You don't understand." His voice strained as he fought whatever was binding him, a torment writ large upon his features, but she couldn't leave him. No matter what twisted horror awaited them, she couldn't abandon the man who had shared her dreams, her life. She knelt beside him, gripping his hand with all the strength she could muster. "Try to hold on. The shadows recoiled as she squeezed his fingers, her warmth intermingling with the chill that clung to him. Sweat beaded on her forehead, the air thickening with dread. The wails crescendoed, a symphony of anguish, clawing at her sanity. "Join us!" The grotesque chorus surged again, pushing against the fragile wall of her will. Fear seeped into her bones. What if this was all a ruse? What if it was too late? "No! We're stronger!" she shouted, trying to believe her own words. The shadows thrashed violently, penitent yet rebellious against her light, but determination surged within her like an electric pulse. Suddenly, Mark's body jerked, shivering violently as if caught in a storm. I can't fight them. They're too powerful." His voice cracked, breaking under the strain. In that moment, something deep inside Sarah awakened, a primal instinct to protect. She looked into his eyes, searching for the man she loved, igniting the memories they had forged. "Remember our vows, Mark? For better or worse. I won't let you go." The shadows shrieked, recoiling from her declaration. She knew she was grasping at straws, but every second felt like an eternity, each heartbeat a countdown. "Join us or be lost forever," the whisper echoed around them, slithering through her thoughts, wrapping around her heart like a vice. With a roar, Mark threw his head back, grappling with forces unseen. "They feast on despair. You must leave." But it was as if the very darkness drew strength from his weakness. Desperation blazed anew. "What do I have to do?" she screamed, her voice rising above the chaos. Suddenly, the shadows surged closer, their forms twisting into grotesque caricatures of her worst fears. Faces she recognized, friends, family twisted into expressions of pain and agony, pleading as they reached out to her. "Join us, Sarah!" Her stomach coiled into knots, panic racing through her veins. They were wrong. These apparitions were not real, they were figments, illusions weaving despair. "You're not real. You can't have me." Yet, the more she fought, the more insistent they became, their fingertips brushing against her mind, planting seeds of self-doubt. Could she really save him? "Sarah!" Mark gasped, his voice a frail thread in the tempest. "You must find the light in the dark. It's our only chance." But how? The thought spiraled in her mind, making her heart pound harder. She had to unravel this, to fight against the very darkness that threatened to rip them apart. What light? As the shadows converged, squeezing tighter and tighter, she felt the first tendrils of true despair sinking their claws into her heart. Suddenly, an ember sparked deep within, igniting a flicker of hope. "Hold on, Mark. I love you." In that moment, she felt the darkness recoil, as if it were afraid. The very essence of their shared love ignited a blinding light, pushing against the shadowy tendrils. But was it enough? The shadows howled, caught between blinding love and ravenous despair. Sarah could feel the weight of their darkness, it made her tremble. Then everything went silent. Too silent. She could hear her own heartbeat echoing in her ears as she and Mark seemed suspended, trapped between salvation and annihilation. What will happen next? She thought, heart pounding, bracing for the unknown as the answer drifted further away, hidden in the encroaching gloom. In the stillness, Sarah's heart raced, a drum echoing through the suffocating silence. She could almost feel the shadows holding their breath, awaiting a fragile decision. Then, without warning, a flicker cut through the darkness, illuminating the space between them, brief but blinding. Sarah Mark's voice was barely a whisper, tinged with urgency. "You must." The flicker danced, swirling like a moth drawn to a flame. It was a promise, a thread of hope amongst the despair. But just as quickly as it appeared, it flickered out, plunging them back into shadow. "Mark!" Panic surged through her. She squeezed his hand tighter, but the cold creeping back through his fingers was a warning that her warmth was losing ground. "Stay with me!" she shouted, the desperation clawing at her throat. The shadows twisted and thrashed, a furious wind swelling around them, growing louder as if to drown out her words, her defiance. Just then, the dark emptiness morphed. A figure formed from the gloom, slowly rising, its eyes glowing like embers against an abyss. It seemed to survey her, sizing up her spirit. "Join us," it rasped, its voice a chilling echo. It reached toward Mark, fingers elongating, casting grotesque shapes against the floor. "No!" Sarah screamed, pulling Mark closer, but the grip on him felt like ice, slipping further into the shadow's clutches. His face contorted with anguish, pleading eyes searching for a way out. "Sarah, it's too late for me." He choked out, the words a dagger piercing her heart. "Don't say that." Her voice trembled, tears burned her cheeks. "I can find the light. I can." Suddenly, the encroaching shadows exploded around them in a cacophony of whispers and screams, surrounding her, suffocating her will. Sarah stumbled backward, losing her balance but not her resolve. She wouldn't let this thing, whatever it was, snatch Mark from her grasp. "Do you truly believe in love?" the figure hissed, voice laced with mockery. "It cannot save you, sweet girl. You cling to a memory." The words raked against her, slicing through hope. Her mind raced, recalling the moments they shared, laughter, quiet evenings in each other's arms. They were real, weren't they? The memories flickered, momentarily solidifying in her mind. "Love is stronger than your darkness," she shouted, her voice rising against the tide of despair. "Our love is real." The creature screeched, recoiling as if struck. "Real?" it whispered, the disbelief stark in its tone. "Then let us see how real." With a flick of its wrist, shadows lunged toward her, enveloping her in their cold embrace. Fear wrapped around her throat, cutting her air. For every shred of light she felt dimming inside, another layer of dark wrapped tighter around her. Mark screamed, his voice jagged, shredding the silence. "Sarah! Find the light. You have to." A sudden clarity seized her. The shadows were feeding on her fear, on her doubts. She wouldn't give in. She could find the light, she had to. The memory of Mark's smile ignited something deep within, a spark of courage. "Your shadows lie," she yelled, focusing not on the grotesque figure but on Mark, the love they shared battling against the despair pressing in. The warmth of their connection shimmered in her mind, urging her on. But before she could gather her thoughts, Mark convulsed again, his body racked with pain. Dark forms pressed down on him, urging him toward their abyss. "No!" she roared, furious determination surging through her veins. "I want to let you take him." In that moment, the air shifted. The oppressive weight of darkness seemed to falter, and for a heartbeat, she felt light, the kind of light that pierced through shadows and doubts, the kind of light that could be their salvation. As this newfound energy coiled around her, she closed her eyes, drawing all her love and strength. "If you're real, then let us go." The shadows writhed, the ghastly figure howled, losing its form in the uproar. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from her core, sending shockwaves that radiated throughout the abyss. Mark's cry was swallowed in an explosion of illumination. Then, just as swiftly, everything went dark again, one more time. A weight dropped in her gut, an insidious fear creeping in as the brightness dimmed. "Mark?" she whispered into the encroaching void, heart thundering against the quiet, bracing for a shift, a change. "Where are you?" And then, she felt it again, the shadows returning, reforming, curling around her like snakes. But this time, something else moved among them, a shifting presence, something that felt different. Somehow more human. As she opened her eyes, her breath catching, she had to wonder, was it truly her love illuminating the darkness, or was it something more sinister lurking in the shadows? The air thickened with foreboding as she caught a glimpse of familiar eyes peering from the darkness, not Mark's, but someone else she recognized, someone she had lost and never thought she would see again. Sarah, a chill ran down her spine, every nerve screaming as she gripped her hands into fists, preparing for whatever came next. "Sarah," the voice echoed through the void, like an echo of a forgotten nightmare. She recognized it but couldn't fathom why it felt like ice running through her veins. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice steadier than the chaotic storm of her heart. The shadows curled tighter around her, tightening their grip in response, as if reacting to her fear. "Don't you remember me?" The voice was soft but dripped with malice, and she felt a wave of dread wash over her. Is it you?" Unraveling the memories was like sifting through dust, trying to find clarity in smoke. A face she had buried deep surged up. Emily. A friend lost to darkness, lost to despair. A low giggle curled from the shadows, mocking her attempts to cling to sanity. "You weren't there when I needed you, Sarah. You turned away." "Emily, I died alone." The shadows danced violently around her, awakening forgotten pain. "You left me in the darkness, and now look at us. We stand in the same abyss." "No." Sarah forced the denial through clenched teeth, her vision beginning to strain at the edges where dark and light fought for dominance. "You don't understand. I tried to stop trying to justify your cowardice." Emily's voice sharpened, slicing through the fog. A chilling wave wrapped around Sarah, an uncanny sensation that her friend could somehow manipulate this bleak landscape. Suddenly, she caught sight of a face in the shadows, distorted and hollow-eyed, flickers of despair flashing with every turn. Emily's image floated in and out of focus, reflecting the torment she once felt and the bitterness that had festered in her absence. "You think you can save him, don't you?" Emily spat, a bitter laugh echoing in the void. "But he's already mine. Just like I was yours." "No. Mark needs me. I want to let you take him. Love can't save him now." The figure drew closer, eyes burning with a fiery intensity. "This realm thrives on despair, and you've given me plenty." As Emily edged forward, Sarah felt the shadows churning, a vortex of anguish forming, trying to consume the light left in her spirit. Heart pounding, she pushed against the weight, fighting for breath. It dawned on her she needed to reclaim the light inside. "Mark!" she shouted, the name igniting a desperate spark within her. "I will find you." With every ounce of will, she reached deep, conjuring the warm moments, the laughter, his smile. Those memories amplified, electrifying the darkness around her. "Please help me," she pleaded, hoping against hope that this time they would both emerge from the shadows. The swirling chaos shuddered. Emily shrieked as tendrils of darkness clawed back, recoiling from the brilliance of Sarah's light. "No! You can't escape. You can't resist." Emily wailed, but Sarah felt empowerment flooding her veins. The shadows thrashed violently, retreating as the light grew stronger. Sarah could feel Mark calling to her, and for the first time since entering the abyss, she felt a surge of hope. "I won't lose you. I won't." She screamed, pouring everything she had into her voice, into her heart. She could feel the pulse of energy gathering, budding with each beat of her spirit, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. Then, a horrible silence fell. The chaos around her held its breath, waiting. "Emily, if you're here with me, you're not lost. Fight it." At her words, Emily paused, a flicker of humanity flashing through her dull eyes. "Fight? What do you mean?" But before Sarah could answer, shadows surged again, trying to pull at Emily, dragging her back into the void. "No. She's not your plaything," Sarah shouted, desperation fueling her resolve. "We can fight together." The darkness writhed violently, a primal scream erupting as if the very air was being torn apart. And just as quickly as it started, a crack of white light slashed through the room, pouring warmth and power into the fray. "Stay with us, Emily," Sarah cried, reaching out, but the shadows reeled, trying to claw Emily back into their depths. The face faded in and out, hovering between her memories and despair. Emily's voice flickered, almost pleading. A pulse of dread filled the air around her. Suddenly, everything went still once more, leaving her with a haunting question: had Emily turned back, or was she doomed to embrace the darkness forever? Sarah, the call echoed once more, enveloping her, probing her sense of reality. Then without warning, everything shifted again. The light pulsated, drawing her toward an unknown edge. What lay beyond? Would she find Mark, or unleash something worse? The question lingered, casting shadows even through the glimmering light. Emily. Mark. Where are you? In an instant, Sarah felt herself propelled forward, the ground beneath her shifting eerily like a liquid dream. The warmth of light dragged her closer to the edge, pulling her past the silhouette of Emily. Panic surged through her veins. What if the light were merely a trap? Mark! She shouted again, as if each cry could cut through the fog and despair that surrounded her. She could almost feel his presence, a whisper at the back of her mind, begging her to find him. The shadows, angry now, lashed out, grazing her skin with icy fingers, clawing at her resolve. Where is he? Her voice trembled, cracking under the pressure of desperation and fear. Who? Emily's voice, sweet yet laced with a venomous undertone, echoed back, taunting her. You're the only one here, Sarah. Only you. Just like before. The shadows twisted and churned, forming images of her past traumas, dark corners of her life she hoped to forget. Nightmares from her childhood surfaced, twisting reality into grotesque interpretations. A face appeared, her mother, eyes hollow and pleading, a specter of guilt, masked in darkness. You abandoned me, it whispered, and then the shadows surged again, mocking her pain, swelling in confidence. No! Sarah shouted. I want to let you win. I'm done being afraid. With every ounce of her strength, she focused on Mark, remembering each moment they had shared, the late-night talks, his laughter in the summer sun, the way his smile lit up her world. It felt alive, the light pulsed in her chest, a beacon amidst the chaos. Give him back. She screamed, the words raw and desperate. The shadows recoiled, a screeching hiss cutting through the air, a bitter cocktail of rage and despair. Emily's spectral figure twisted, painfully darting back and forth like a trapped animal. You don't understand what you're asking, Sarah. Darkness is all we have now. But with every syllable, Sarah felt that flicker of humanity in Emily's fading eyes. You're not lost, she urged. Fight. Remember who you are. The void trembled at Sarah's conviction, the light igniting a tireless war against the dark. She pushed forward, reaching for Emily as if they were two boughs fighting against being pruned. Together. We can escape this. As she extended her hand, Emily hesitated, caught in a battle between despair and hope. A moment stretched painfully, the shadows forming monstrous faces, their screams echoing in the void, pressing in on every side. Suddenly, the shadows slackened, just for an instant, and Emily's form blurred between acceptance and revulsion. I am too far gone, the malice in her voice faltered, turning softer, vulnerable. Please. Sarah cried, tears slipping down her cheeks. You have to fight. I want to let you go alone. But in a chilling heartbeat, the shadows surged forward, black tendrils wrapping around Emily, pulling her back into their abyssal depths. Sarah felt the grip of despair tighten around her more than ever, her heart racing as reality splintered around her. Don't leave me. She shrieked, but Emily's once familiar face was lost to the dark, her voice fading into a scream. The shadows twisted into a frenzy, and the warmth of the light trembled, flickering ominously. Then, as if reaching the end of her tether, Sarah lunged toward the disintegrating light, sensing that whatever lay beyond could either be her salvation or her end. Footfalls echoed behind her, menacing, heavy. It was a sound she couldn't ignore. Sarah spun around, dread creeping into her gut. Mark? Is that you? But as the shadows twisted deeper, she realized the truth. It wasn't Mark approaching, it was something worse, something that thrived on the very despair she had fought against. She took a step back, knowing that her next choice would seal their fate. Will you crumble, or will you fight? Silence fell, the spectral voices of the past coiling around her. The decision loomed like a sinister specter. And then her own whisper taunted her, "What will you do, Sarah?" The oppressive air thickened, whispering of things long forgotten, and in that moment, the boundaries of light and dark began to blur. Would she gather the courage to face what was coming, or let her fear drown her in the shadows? The shadows loomed larger than ever, engulfing her in a swirling mass of despair. Each footfall resonated like a drum, pounding in sync with her racing heart. She couldn't tell if it was Mark or something more sinister creeping closer, but she felt the darkness pressing her against the brink. "Fight, Sarah," she murmured to herself, yet the air felt thick with the weight of her failures. Emily was lost, and now she had to face this haunting specter alone. "What did you want?" She called into the murky void, hoping for an answer that made sense amidst the chaos. But instead of words, she heard a low, guttural growl. It reverberated through her bones, the light flickered above her like a desperate flame. With each wane, the shadows deepened, clawing at her sanity. "No!" Sarah screamed, refusing to submit. "I won't let you take anything else from me." As if responding to her defiance, the oppressive darkness stilled for a fleeting moment. She felt an odd pull, a tarnished thread of familiarity wrapped in the chilling refuse of despair. With a sudden surge of determination, she dove toward the light, reaching out with trembling fingers. But the moment she touched it, pain lanced through her hand, sharp and electric, as if she had plunged it into a vat of ice. A vision erupted, and there was Mark, his face twisted, eyes wide with terror. "Sarah!" he called, the sound distorted, echoing as if from miles away. The shadows pulled at him, threatening to consume him whole. "Help me, Mark!" she cried, and instinct ignited within her. She forced herself deeper into the light, letting the warmth envelope her, pushing against the shadow's icy grip. "I'm coming." Suddenly, the entity behind her leapt forward. It materialized from the thick mist, a towering figure wreathed in darkness, its face obscured, yet unmistakably human. A cruel grin stretched its lips, revealing teeth like jagged shards of glass. "You cannot save him, Sarah. You're too late." "Shut up!" she shouted, battling against the rising tide of hopelessness. "I will save him." The horrifying creature charged, and Sarah barely dodged to the side, her breath coming fast, tearing through her lungs as she scrutinized her surroundings. Desperate, she spotted an outcropping of rock nearby, jagged and dark. The entity paused, maneuvering with slow, deliberate grace, as if savoring her fear. It seemed to giggle, a rattling sound that scraped against her nerves. "You think hiding will save you?" Its voice curled around her, thick like smoke. "Let us see what you're really made of." As she glanced back at the light, its warmth waning, she knew she had to outsmart this horror. Wisdom flooded her mind, and she recalled the tales of survivors. They faced their fears. They stood firm. They made choices. "Mark!" she called again. "If you can hear me, fight. Remember us." The darkness surged toward her again, yet this time she stood firm. She gathered every memory, every moment they had shared, and pulled the energy into her core, igniting a flame against the chilling dread. She took a step toward the entity. "No more." The creature's laughter faded as confusion marred its features. "What are you?" "Hope," she shouted. "Love. Light." In that moment, the light flared, a shield of luminous energy bursting from her. It washed over her, pushing back the shadows, forcing the grotesque figure to recoil, hissing and screeching. And then she felt it, the faintest touch of Mark's presence bolstering her. "Together." He echoed from the shadows, drawing on their bond. She thrust her palm forward, aiming the searing brilliance right at the heart of the creature. It twisted, contorting as if caught in a storm, a blend of rage and terror. But as she did, a deafening thrum erupted, the ground shaking beneath her feet, and in the blistering light, a crack formed in the fabric of the dark world around her. The shadows exploded, but as they flung away, a torrent of whispers filled the air, their voices clawing at Sarah's mind. "You've made a grave mistake." In that very moment, with the chasm of darkness opening wide around her, everything jolted. Was she thrusting forward into salvation or taking a step deeper into the abyss? The crack yawned beneath her feet, and as she jerked back, she caught a glimpse of something terrible. Mark, or what remained of him, twisted in agony. Sarah. Then everything collapsed into a shrieking void. Would she rescue him before it all spiraled into darkness, or was this fight merely the beginning of an insurmountable horror? Darkness swallowed her whole, like a cavernous maw ready to digest her fears. The crack beneath her felt alive, pulsating with a heartbeat that echoed her own. She was falling, suspended in dread, suspended in time. Arms flailed while her breath came in desperate gasps. "Mark!" She screamed again, as if her voice could pierce the suffocating blackness surrounding her. But there was silence, save for a thrumming that resonated through the void, a sound like distant thunder. It taunted her, reminding her of the depths of despair she was trapped in. Then, something shifted. A flicker of warmth brushed against her skin, fast and fleeting. Instinct grabbed her, pulled her toward it. It felt familiar, a memory buried in the recesses of her mind. She reached for it, fingers outstretched, chasing the specter of light. Each second felt like an eternity, battling against the swirling forces of fear and hopelessness. The warmth intensified, illuminating parts of her fading memories. Laughter, joy, all lost amidst the horror. Emily's smile flickered before her eyes, and for a moment, the chaos was still. "Fight!" Emily's voice rang in her ears, mingling with Mark's anguished cries. The shadows shifted, enraged by her defiance, churning like a storm brewing. "You have the power." Power. The word struck her like lightning. It wasn't just about struggling against the darkness, it was about channeling what she loved. With each passing second, fragmented pieces of Mark's face reappeared in her mind, merging with desperate hope. "I won't give up," she roared, defiance weaving through her veins. Her heart thudded, echoing in the silence. She drew upon every moment of strength she could muster, the depths of her love for Mark momentarily outshining the lurking presence. From the depths, a glimpse of clarity emerged. She could feel the crack beneath her, still yawning wide, willing to consume her. And in that moment, she made a choice. She would not fall and let the darkness win. No! She bellowed, and with every ounce of will, she directed her fear toward the crack, transforming it into a weapon against the very darkness trying to tear her apart. With a snap like thunder, the light burst from her, a brilliant flash that pushed back the shadows. The ground trembled and cracked, splintering under the pressure of her resolve. She could hear it now. Mark's voice was louder, clearer. "Sarah! Stay with me. Don't let go." Pain erupted through her hand as she collapsed on jagged rocks while the light suffocated the darkness. It was here that she found him, a silhouette caught in a whirl of despair and ephemeral light. His eyes shone with unmistakable fear, but there was something else, determination. "Mark!" she cried, pulling herself toward him. The shadows lunged, grasping at her feet, pulling her down. She felt their cold fingers encircle her ankles, dragging her closer to the abyss. "I'm right here," he shouted, his figure twisted in agony, yet resolute. "Pull me free." But as she reached, the cracks in reality deepened, the very air vibrating with its sinister intent. "You shouldn't have resisted," the entity hissed, a voice laced with malice. "You've awakened forces beyond understanding." In that moment, Sarah felt the walls close in, the warmth of their bond under siege. Desperate, her thoughts flashed back to their love, nights spent under the stars, laughter echoing through the park. The entity reared back, the shadows writhing, feeding off the vulnerability of their moment. "Stay strong, remember us," she urged, summoning every bit of love she had for him, every shared moment that kept their spirits entwined amid the darkness, and then it happened. The bond they shared, flickering at the edges of the void, erupted like a supernova. She could see it light pouring from their connection, pushing the shadows back further than she ever imagined. Together, they shouted, uniting in their resolve. But as the shadows hissed in recoiling fear, the ground buckled, and she realized the entity wouldn't be easily vanquished. "What's left of you, Sarah?" it taunted, its laughter a sickening cacophony. "Do you really think you can outshine eternal darkness?" And there, even as they countered the horrors before them, doubts crept in, twisting like vines around her heart. A sinking feeling, the fear that he might already be lost. The echoes of the shadows whispered, "You've given us what we need." Sarah's heart raced as a deeper darkness loomed closer. Had they truly awakened something beyond their control? As the shadows surged for one last desperate attack, she felt the very fabric of reality shift. Would she and Mark find their way back to the light, or were they destined to become another horror story trapped in the darkness? The world around Sarah erupted in chaos as the shadows surged, twisting and contorting with an insatiable hunger. But deep within her, a flicker of determination ignited, a burning reminder of everything she had fought for. "No," she whispered fiercely. "I won't let you take him." Mark's anguished face remained etched in her mind, a beacon shining through the oppressive darkness. "Stay with me, Sarah," he pleaded, his voice echoing like a siren in a storm. With each desperate breath, the shadows pressed closer, trying to engulf her in their cold embrace, threatening to snuff out the flame of hope she clung to. Drawing in the warmth of remembrance, Sarah summoned every moment of light they had shared: walks in the park, starlit conversations, laughter echoing in their little home. "You are not lost," she shouted, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding her. "You are more than this. We are more." As if responding to her fierce love, the shadows around Mark hesitated, recoiling just slightly as flickers of light began to pulse from her heart. It was a small victory, but one that ignited a blaze within her spirit. She could feel it. Mark's presence was fighting back against the malevolence trying to lay claim to his soul. Together, she breathed, reaching for him. Their bond pulsed between them like a lifeline, urging her forward, pushing her to take that final leap. The malevolent entity roared defiantly, a cacophony of lost souls rising to challenge her will. "You think you can save him?" it shrieked, its voice like nails dragging on a chalkboard. "You are but a drop in the ocean of despair." But Sarah stood her ground. "No. We're stronger than you'll ever know." With every ounce of love, she thrust her hands forward, aiming the light at the dark entity looming before them. The brilliance burst forth like an explosion, sending waves of energy crashing into the shadows that had become so familiar. In an instant, the ground shook violently, fissures appearing, swallowing the gloom that clawed at the edges of her reality. She could see Mark breaking free within the light, the shadows beginning to release their grip. "Sarah! I can feel you!" he shouted, desperation and hope woven into each word. "Hold on!" she cried, her voice steady and fierce as she poured every last shard of her strength into the light. The air buzzed with anticipation, a tangible energy that filled her heart. And in that moment, she realized the darkness thrived on fear, on separation. Their love was its antidote. The shadows shrieked and twisted, fighting back against the blinding force, but Sarah didn't waver. "You don't own us." Her voice cut through the air like a sword, bright and resolute. "We will not be claimed by despair." As if in response, a golden light erupted from their grasp, illuminating the chaotic scene and pushing back the encroaching darkness. She could feel Mark's spirit intertwining with hers, their energies merging together, fighting, forging a bond stronger than any curse, and just like that, it happened. The shadows howled, a final wail of anguish and fury, fracturing under the weight of their love. The world tilted, and for a fleeting second, it felt as if they were suspended in time, caught between terror and salvation. "Sarah!" Mark's voice rang out, clear and strong, as a wave of warmth enveloped them both. It washed over her, cleansing the remnants of fear that still lingered. You did it. A radiant light burst forth, scattering the shadows that had once threatened to consume them. The dark entity shrieked one last time before disintegrating into nothingness, leaving only a whisper of wind in its wake. In the afterglow, Sarah found herself collapsed into Mark's arms. Warmth flooded her body as the oppressive weight of the cursed summer lifted. They were free. The darkness that had once threatened to swallow them whole dissolved into mere echoes of a distant nightmare. "Are you okay?" Mark asked, holding her tightly, his eyes still wide with disbelief and relief. "Did we really?" "Yes," Sarah whispered, tears of joy spilling over. "We did it together." As the moon cast its gentle light over them, illuminating the remnants of shadows that flickered away, they clung to each other, relishing the simple yet profound truth they had faced the darkness and had emerged into the light. The haunted tales of the cursed summer faded into their memories, a reminder of their strength, a remarkable testament to love unbound. "I won't lose you again," she promised, her voice resolute but gentle. "Never," he replied, kissing her forehead softly. Together, they knew there would be challenges ahead, but they would face them united, two souls linked by an unbreakable bond forever ready to confront whatever horrors might come, side by side. Now that the shadows had retreated, the dawn began to break, spilling warmth and light into the world. They had weathered the storm, and with it, their love had only grown stronger. The cursed summer was over. Don't miss your chance to embrace the journey. You need to subscribe now to our channel. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this incredible story, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the love and light together.